If you're in a job that looks great on paper, but just doesn't light you up like it once did, you are not alone. I'm Chloe Temple, a leadership coach who spent the past 5 years helping leaders like you find clarity, confidence, and purpose without walking away from the security of a 9 to 5. Welcome to The Leader That Lasts, a podcast for ambitious professionals who want more than just making it through the week. Each episode, I'll share real stories, honest mistakes, and practical tools to help you find fulfillment wherever you are. Because staying doesn't have to mean settling. You don't need to leave, you need to lead. So it is today, Friday, the 9th of January, 2026. And I don't know if I'm going to publish this episode. I don't know if I'm going to share it. This could just be for me to capture really a commitment to stop shoulding on myself. And having taken some proper break over Christmas, genuinely didn't work, which for me, as a business owner, that's the second time that I have actually properly switched off. First time was in August this year, which I was so proud of. So just about a week ago, New Year's Eve, I'm sitting down and I'm doing my New Year's Eve activities. I'd already done some planning for this year and reflections and all that kind of stuff because I really do enjoy. I don't believe in New Year, New You, but there is a social energy that happens at the close of a calendar year into the next, which you can choose to embrace. I've always loved that energy. And I've consistently been very structured around how I do my reflections and how I set my intentions for the year. And at the beginning of December, I plan to record a load of content, make recommendations for how essentially share the processes that I've been doing for the last 10 years, if in case it's helpful for others. But for various reasons, which I'm going to go into in this episode, I didn't do any of that. I haven't recorded you how to structure an end of year review. I do recommend taking some time in general, whether or not it's the end of the week or end of the day or end of the month or end of the quarter or end of the year, to making recommendations, because I am going through a bit of transition of the way that I am showing up. And that is really consciously letting go of some of the old patternings and old conditionings that have been ingrained within me. And many of these I've talked openly about on the podcast. Perfectionism, achievement addict, martyr, people pleasing are some of the big ones that come up. And over the break, I reread for the third time The Courage to Be Disliked by, I might say this wrong, but Ashiro Kisimi and Fumitake Koga. And this is actually the third time I've read it. The first time I read it, I didn't like it at all. I really didn't get on with it. As is true probably with so much of our life, your experience of reading this book will be influenced by who you are at the time of reading it, what's going on for you, what is present in your life, what you believe, what you don't believe. And that's why I think that this benefit in rereading things, really good things, is because you can experience something in a completely different way because you are different. You are in a different state, time, with different priorities, different learnings, different self-insight. The best example of that for me is I'm into Tony Robbins. I don't talk about it a lot because he's polarizing, although after reading The Courage to Be Disliked, you know what? If you think I'm weird for being a fan of Tony, that's your task, not mine. I'll talk about the concept of tasks in a minute, but Tony Robbins changed my life, completely and utterly changed my life. I went to a Tony Robbins seminar, I'm going to say 6 or 7 years ago now, and my life was genuinely never the same afterwards. I don't know how I even got there. Essentially, a boss of mine who's one of my closest friends now, she had bought a ticket for herself And I had happened to listen to a Tim Ferriss podcast. Tony Robbins was on it. And I was like, oh, there's some interesting stuff there. And this boss of mine said she had the spare ticket that she couldn't go to and she was trying to sell it. And I just, you know what? Maybe I should go. I was living in Sydney at the time. It was at the Sydney Olympic Village, huge stadium, 4 days. And I thought, why not? And Unleash the Power Within, or UPW as it's known, I have been back 4 times. I've done it in person twice. I've done it virtually twice. I've done a load of other Tony Robbins, pretty much all of his things I've done. I've even been to Fiji to his Life and Wealth Mastery, 10 days. This is the first time I'm sharing it because I have been afraid that people would think less of me for being such a fan of Tony's work because he is polarizing. And yet, again, having read this book, Courage to be Disliked, for the 3rd time, I realized that true freedom, if you want to truly be free, it comes from leaning into the courage to be disliked, to be polarizing, to turn people off, because you are never free if you are constantly trying to please other people or meet other people's expectations. You are making yourself smaller or changing yourself in ways that is not helpful. And I have talked a lot on this podcast about courage. I have talked a lot about failure. I have been incredibly open and presented myself in as authentic a way as I felt comfortable to do. But I have been in my comfort zone, not sharing that I go to Tony Robbins seminars. I'm a huge fan. I do all this woo-woo stuff, like manifesting, and I believe in the universe, and I meditate, and various other kind of spiritual practices that are so important to me that I have kept to myself because I actually have been trying to play or fit a role or mold myself or show myself to be something that makes me palatable to a corporate buyer. Often how most of my work comes about is an individual, a leader will know me or have interacted with my stuff and think, if I want to get Chloe to support my team with, let's say, a leadership development program, or come in and do some offsites, etc. This is what's happened in the past. And more often than not, there is a certain level of approval that they need to get, be it from HR or from their bosses, in order for me to be bought. That sounds ridiculous, but because I cannot be bought, but like for them to get the investment signed off across the line, even for them to convince finance that it's worthwhile to set a small business up like me to come in as a speaker, etc. These processes take so much time for the leader to back something unknown, someone unknown who I've been told I don't have enough grey hair, I just need to have more experience, like that actually it's just way, way too hard to bring me on board when they have existing providers of L&D staff that it's much, much easier to go with someone who is tried and tested already in the system, etc., than to take a punt on someone who the leader might themselves truly believe is going to have a huge impact on the team, might have impacted them themselves. A lot of the corporate work I do actually comes from clients who I've worked with for a long period of time, coached personally. So they have a strong experience of me and are willing to really go out of their way in order to back me and go through all of the processes internally in order to make it happen. But what I have had in the back of my mind is, okay, my way of supporting that individual backing me is that if they share any of my content or any of, like this podcast as an example, that someone vetting the validity of, and even the value or the, is it worth it, is going to think, this is not going to ruffle any feathers, and Chloe's going to toe the party line, etc. I have been wholly conscious of those, and this I think probably is an unfounded fear, that they will find something, or I will have said something, like I'm a fan of Tony Robbins, that will put someone off wanting to buy my services, essentially. And look, this is a true experience of the noise that goes on in our heads. Like, you will have your own version of this overthinking, this I need to be a certain way or act in a certain way or show up in a certain way that is not truly aligned with me, or is a half of self. Because that's essentially how I feel like I've been presenting myself is, yes, I've been super open, but in a way that has felt like acceptable, or no one is going to be put off essentially by it. And what the courage to be disliked says, in order to be free, you need to embrace the discomfort that you cannot be liked by everyone. It is physically impossible. And actually, the seeking of external validation, acceptance from others, of attempting to prove your worth, is holding you back from feeling or experiencing actual freedom. It's funny. I had a mentor, I went through an accelerator program 3-4 years ago, and they really talked about aiming for 600 grand a year revenue goal, and their reason for why one should aim for that sort of that level was not only because of the financial freedom that it then gives you to experience a good life, but the freedom to say what you think, essentially what could be called thought leadership. And that is, I resonate less with the financial ambition of the 600 grand in terms of the financial freedom that brings, although why not? How nice. But what I resonated most with in what they said was actually the second piece, was that freedom of voice, freedom of being able to share and be honest, have an opinion and be polarizing. And the way that I took it was, you can't afford to be polarizing until you've hit this 600 grand a year, because it'll have financial implications. This is the hidden message that I took that I hadn't realized until I was doing some reflection over the break. And I realized, I've embedded this belief that may or may not be true. It's probably not true. In fact, it's definitely not true. I can say what I want. And there are plenty of examples of people saying horrendous things, hugely polarizing things. Look at politics as an example, who are not being financially implicated for it. If anything, the opposite, which should disprove this belief that I had around, okay, when I meet this revenue goal, then I will feel free to be truly and fully expressed in a way that's not worrying about whether or not someone is going to sign off the next leadership development program that I choose to run. This when mentality, this when this thing happens, then I will blah, blah, blah. Whatever conditions you think need to be true in order for you to feel fulfilled, feel successful, whatever the goal that you have, you will probably have something in your mind as to, I just need to achieve blah, and then I will feel a certain way. I actually think it's rubbish. I actually think, finally, I've realized, if anything, I'm probably shooting myself in the foot by delaying showing up as the fullest version of myself for some future seed of approval, maybe a 600K revenue goal achieved. Woohoo! I think it took me to sitting down and reflecting and really being honest with myself that the achievement addict in me has set these expectations of myself that have been holding me back from feeling as happy as I probably could do, as fully expressed, as in integrity with myself. And I have been acting, if I'm really honest, every day for approval of others. And I share this because I know I am not alone in this. And I also know that there's going to be a lot of work to do to unwind those patterns and behaviors of constantly proving. I wrote this note down when I was reading the book. The moment being liked by others becomes our primary goal. We water down our opinions, hide our desires, say yes when we mean no, and contort ourselves to fit someone else's expectations. And the thing is, this doesn't just play out in our work lives, it plays out in our personal lives too, in what we say yes to, in how we show up with our friends, partners, families. Probably the key message that came through in the third read of the book was the concept of a separation of tasks. So what the authors talk about is that each of us has our own task, and my role, my job, my focus should be on my own tasks. My task is how I show up, what I say, what I communicate. As an example, that's my task. How you receive this message, how you listening to this podcast, the meaning that you're taking from what I am sharing, and what you choose to do with it, or what you think about me, whether or not you think more of me or less of me, or you're just completely neutral and you're like, oh, this is a bit of a weird conversation. I think that's your task. My task is to just record the damn thing and to try and manipulate you to feel a certain way about me because of what I'm saying, etc. That's an invasion on your task. It's okay. Genuinely, if you think that I'm talking a load of nonsense, the key message in the book is really around to stop living for the approval of others and instead to live in alignment with your own values. And so as long as I am living in alignment with my values, that's my task. And how it is received is someone else's task. Which is why the real theme of this year for me will be stop shooting on myself, and shooting on myself in terms of I should or shouldn't say this, or I should or shouldn't put this out or do this, or like the overthinking that goes into that. But equally, the shooting on myself to, I'm a massive over deliverer. For anyone who has been a client, I will give my absolute, and have historically given my absolute all, like to the extent that you would have got 110% of me. And I'm making a really uncomfortable decision for 2026, for this year, to stop doing that, to give just the 100. And you know what? Maybe I'm going to aim for 90 and that be okay. And maybe by aiming for 90, it means that I'm going to be able to make more impact in a wider level because I don't overcommit, I don't overgive, I don't essentially burn myself out to the extent that I have nothing left to give. And if I'm really honest with you, that's how I ended the year. I took on too much. I bit off way more than I could chew. Lots of travel, amazing opportunities that I just absolutely wanted to say yes to. But by doing that, I came back a little bit broken, and that is on me. I'll be specific. It was a last minute opportunity to fly to New York. I think I had 2 weeks notice to run a Y discovery for a team, plus some other bits and bobs. It was a program that normally would have been a 2.5 day offsite kind of thing. We could possibly normally have done it in about 2 days. And I was challenged by the leader, who I should have pushed back on and who might listen to this. And it was my responsibility to have pushed back and sort of said, maybe this was just the limit. If not, for the team, it would definitely have been better if we had fit less in. Now, I've said, yes, we'll find a way to make a 2.5-day experience into a 1-day experience. And the feedback from the session was amazing. 4.6 out of 5 from the team. The hidden cost of that whole experience, though, was I was completely and utterly shattered, because not only was it very difficult to have worked out how to have coordinated it into such a way, I was working through the breaks. I was getting really creative about how I was going to take a lot of the burden from the team so that we could do it in a way that we would still achieve the outcome, but in that really condensed time period. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have done it. And I was up at 4 a.m. that day, finalizing bits and pieces over to the office, get the room all set up and all those good things. And then I went through the whole day. We finished 5:15. I was in a taxi into the airport for a flight that went out of JFK at 10:40 p.m. And I arrived back in the UK a completely and utterly broken person. I was so exhausted by the experience. And this was on top of a really busy run up to the Christmas period, because I thought I'm going to take an extended amount of time. I flew to Cambodia. It was amazing. Had a lovely holiday, but I should have said no. I should have pushed back, or I could have created it in a different way. And on top of this, I was trying to do it all on my own. Now, it's the why behind saying yes to this, such an amazing opportunity to be able to fly to New York, to deliver incredible sessions, to be able to have the work trip accompanied with some incredible experiences. I went to Broadway. I did all of the New York things, like going to Central Park, and I made the most of the time. And on paper, it was such an obvious yes. And when the opportunity came through, I sat there thinking, I've manifested this unbelievable opportunity. And I went to my therapist after this whole experience when I was talking about it. I said, I just couldn't say no. Yes, I knew I was going to be busy. It was already a busy period and there was a lot going on around it. It's the dream, flying to New York, and how amazing. It wasn't even on my bucket list for the year. And she said, yeah, but was it really worth it? And what has been the cost? And I'll be honest, there has been a big cost to it, because I've had a kind of slow re-entry back to January. That honestly is because I am still tired after what was a really big 2025. And the reason I'm recording this is because I don't want to repeat that same pattern. And a lot of it has been driven by this voice of should, and it never feeling like I'm doing enough or achieving enough. And that is not helpful. That is also massively not sustainable. And I have felt so out of integrity, if I'm honest, with my message around becoming a leader that lasts, being a leader that lasts, which is a combination of performance, purpose, and well-being. I talk about it very openly, that well-being is my area of opportunity, area that I need to, like so many other people, lean more into. That has come so far to the fore for me, where I have come so close to truly burning out. And I don't know what that experience is, but I think my therapist would say that I'm probably there. But this experience of giving so much, proving my worth, molding myself into things that I think are going to be palatable or acceptable for other people, and not only acceptable but likable, something that people absolutely makes investing and bringing in and taking a punt on, whether it's a coach or whether I come in and support teams as a facilitator or as a speaker or as a trainer. There is a level of discomfort that a leader anyone will experience when they're bringing someone in, as to, is this going to really add the value? Are the team going to like it? Is this a good decision? And I have been caring too much about that, such that I have made sacrifices on future work. There are certain things that I have had to stop or decide, right, I'm actually not going to do this in the way that I was going to do that before, because the cost has come upstream. The decisions that I made, and I take full self-responsibility for this, the decisions that past me has made and the operating system that past me has been leading from has been unsustainable. And that really has been, if you are familiar with my work around performance leadership, it's the performance leader or performance manager that has been running the show. Drive, strive, productivity, do more, results. I have played into sneaky saboteurs that I talk about in my work around people pleasing or the martyr or the achievement addict, because I wanted to make a difference, and that's not been sustainable. And I hit this point of true realization, which is so interesting that it's happening around my own work, that I have to, this has got to be the year I lean into, truly lean into, in a bigger way than I'm definitely comfortable with, into my wellbeing leadership. And that has included increasing sessions with my therapist who once a week, shifting how I change my day. I'm so privileged because I'm able to create it in this way. I don't want to disregard that. But equally, it has taken me making some very difficult, financially painful decisions around what I do, how I structure the business, where, like, how many projects I can take on at once, how many clients, all of those things. They are conscious decisions that I am making, tough ones, where past me has been not very boundaried around it and has been, okay, yeah, you're a client, you drive the ship as to when I will work around your schedule. I'm not doing that anymore. And that's not just for me and my own wellbeing leadership, but it also will, I think, truly positively impact clients as well, because I will not be showing out of integrity with how I'm helping them. Because I feel like I am in this full circle moment of the reason I started the business was because I realized that in order to be leaders that last, we need to be focused on all three of the pillars of our life. Me, we, and be. And me is your performance pillar, we is your purpose pillar, and be is your well-being pillar. I will talk so much more about that in the year ahead in a different way, because this episode, if it does go out, will be the end of season 1 of the podcast. I did take a break. You've probably got more context as to why that was. Now I've been quite so open in this episode. Season 2 is going to be very different. I am really excited for season 2. I don't want to share anything about it, but what can I share? Well, it might not just be me. Thank you for listening. If anything I've shared has resonated with you, I would love to hear from you on LinkedIn. Season 1, I have talked a lot about my own experiences, a lot about my own failures. It has been a lot of me sharing. It has been quite a cathartic experience. The reason I am sharing, though, is because as we listen to other people tell their stories and open up, we're getting our own insights about something that will be going on in our own lives. There will be something here, or maybe there isn't, but there might have been something that I have said here through my own experience, from me opening up around some of the shifts that I am choosing to make in the year ahead and some of the mistakes that I have made along the way. There's something there that could be shining a light for you. My word of the year, I love doing a word of the year. My word of the year for 2026 is radical. And really, that is a choice. Leadership is a choice, not a title. And I choose to make some radical changes to how I lead and to take radical self-responsibility for how I show up, what I say yes to, the boundaries that I have, and the life that I create, the way that I work, the way that I show up, the impact that I have. My intent for the year ahead is to help inspire others to lean into the discomfort of leading the most important person in your life, which is you. To take radical self-responsibility, radical self-leadership for leading you. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in season 2. Fulfillment, impact, and a life that you actually want to jump out of bed for, even on a Monday. By listening to this episode, I hope you are one step closer to creating that and becoming a leader that lasts. Now, I want to hear from you. Pop me a DM on LinkedIn or Instagram and let me know what landed. And if you are the kind of kind-hearted leader who's willing to help me out in a big way, take a minute to rate and review the podcast. Send me a screenshot and I'll send you a juicy freebie as a big thank you. Until next time, lead, don't leave, and I'll see you in the next one.